everyone, welcome to Learning Literature with Purba. In this video, we are going to talk about the history of English literature. We are going to discuss all the literary ages from the Old English period to the postmodern age. Now, I have got plenty of requests for this video, and so here I am with a crisp summary of all the literary ages. So if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, then do subscribe to it and hit the bell icon so that you never miss an update. Let's begin our discussion with the Old English period, which is also called the Anglo Saxon period. The timeline of the period is approximately from 450 AD to 1066 AD. Old English language was a mixture of native Brythonic language and tribal Germanic language. The Anglo-Saxons used alliteration and kennings in their poetry. Anglo-Saxon poetry can be divided into three types. So there was heroic poetry, a classic example is Beowulf. There was lyric poetry such as Wanderer and Seafarer. Then there was also Christian poetry such as Dream of the Root. The popular poets of the Old English period are Kidman and Cinewulf. Now St. Augustine came to England in 597 AD and converted England to a Christian nation. Prose developed after Christianity was spread. King Alfred the Great was the key figure in Anglo-Saxon prose. He started the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles, which continued from the 9th to 11th century. Next we have the Anglo Norman Period, which started with the Norman Conquest in 1066 AD. It is also called the Anglo-French period and it belongs to the Middle English period. The upper class started speaking French and the ordinary people spoke Old English. Universities were established during the Middle English period. So the Oxford University was established in the 12th century and the Cambridge University was established in the 13th century. The popular poets of the Anglo-Norman period are the Geoffrey of Monmouth, Wace, Layman, and the Pearl Poet. And the popular works of the Anglo-Norman period are Sir Gawain and the Green Knight and Owl and the Nightingale. Within the Middle English period, we have the Age of Chaucer. The timeline of the period is from 1340 to 1400. The Age of Chaucer is the opening moment of English literature. Geoffrey Chaucer lived under the rule of three kings, Edward III, Richard II, and Henry IV. The notable events during this period are the 100 Years' War, which England fought with France, Black Death, which is a bubonic plague caused by rats, and the Peasant Rebellion. The most important works of Geoffrey Chaucer are the Canterbury Tales, the Book of Duchess, Parliament of Fowls, House of Fame, Troilus and Cressida, and Legend of Good Woman. Other notable poets of the Age of Chaucer are William Langland and John Gower. An important prose work in the Age of Chaucer is Wycliffe's Bible. John Wycliffe translated the Latin Bible into vernacular English. After the Age of Chaucer, we have the Age of Revival. The timeline of the period is between 1400 AD and 1558 AD. The notable events during this period are arrival of the printing press, Reformation by Martin Luther, who talked about the ill practices of Catholic Church. The followers of Martin Luther were called Protestants. Then there was the War of Roses between the two English royalties, the House of York and the House of Lancaster. After the War of Roses ended, Tudor Dynasty started. Henry VII was the first Tudor king. His successor was Henry VIII, who married 6 times for a son. His first wife, Catherine of Aragon, gave birth to daughter Mary. His second wife, Anne Boleyn, gave birth to daughter Elizabeth. The popular authors of this period are Erasmus, Thomas More, William Tyndale, and Thomas Malory. Next we have the Elizabethan Age, which is also known as the Golden Age of England. The timeline of the Elizabethan Age is the reign of Queen Elizabeth, which is from 1558 to 1603. Queen Elizabeth was a Protestant. She came to the throne after the violent reign of her half-sister, Queen Mary, who was a Catholic. Queen Elizabeth restored peace and harmony in England. Both the Catholics and Protestants started living in peace. Renaissance humanism is one of the most important characteristics of the Elizabethan Age. Francis Bacon was the founder of the scientific movement in Renaissance. The popular poets of the Elizabethan Age are Edmund Spenser and Philip Sidney. Drama flourished during the Elizabethan Age, and the famous dramatists of the Elizabethan Age are Christopher Marlowe, Thomas Kyd, and William Shakespeare. After Elizabethan Age, we come to the Jacobean Age. The timeline of the Jacobean Age is the reign of King James I from 1603 to 1625. King James I was earlier the King of Scotland. So he was the first Stuart king. So we can see that the Tudor Dynasty came to an end with the reign of Queen Elizabeth. A very important event that happened during the Jacobean Age is the Gunpowder Treason, which was a plot, a conspiracy by a small group of Catholics to murder King James I and to restore Catholicism. Guy Fawkes was the main conspirator in Gunpowder Treason, who was later arrested by the king's men. After Jacobean Age, we have the Caroline Age. The son of King James I, Charles I, became the next ruler. So the timeline of the Caroline Age is the reign of King Charles I, which is from 1625 to 1640. King Charles I took several wrong decisions that made people throw him out of England and led to civil war. The major dramatists who wrote during the Jacobean Age and Caroline Age are Ben Jonson, George Chapman, Beaumont and Fletcher, John Webster, and Thomas Middleton. The metaphysical poets such as Andrew Marvell, John Donne, and George Herbert also wrote during the Jacobean and Caroline Age. Next we have the Civil War and the Commonwealth period. The timeline of the period is from 1640 to 1660. So the Civil War took place between King Charles I and the Parliament of England. Oliver Cromwell, a Puritan, led the Parliament. In 1649, Oliver Cromwell executed King Charles I, after which he became the Lord Protector of England. Theatres were banned during this period. The most important writers who wrote during the Civil War and Commonwealth period are John Milton, the author of Paradise Lost, and John Bunyan, the author of Pilgrim's Progress. Next we have the Restoration Age. The timeline of the Restoration Age is from 1660 to 1700. King Charles II, who is the son of King Charles I, was restored to the throne of England in 1660. The ban on theatres was also lifted in 1660. The Restoration Age is also called the Age of Dryden. The popular writers who wrote during this period are obviously John Dryden, William Congreve, John Vanbrugh, Aphra Behn, and Thomas Rhymer. After the Restoration Age is the Enlightenment Age, which is also called the Age of Reason, the Age of Sensibility, Neoclassical Age, and Augustan Age. The timeline of the Enlightenment Age is from 1700 AD to 1798 AD. This is the age of prose and reason. There was a scientific revolution during the Enlightenment Age with scientists such as Newton and Galileo. Coffee houses started, which led to the publication of magazines. The Dictionary of English Language was published by Samuel Johnson during this period. Writers commonly wrote satires. The most notable writers during the Enlightenment Age are Alexander Pope, Jonathan Swift, Richard Steele, Joseph Edison, Samuel Richardson, Daniel Defoe, and Henry Fielding. Next is the Romantic Age. Lyrical Ballad, a collection of poems by William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge, was published in 1798, and it marks the beginning of Romantic Age. Industrial Revolution started during the Romantic Age. Due to the harmful effects of Industrial Revolution such as pollution, materialization, and dehumanization of labors, writers started looking towards nature. There was an idealization of rural life, that is village life. Feelings and emotions became extremely important. Writers wrote in plain and simple language so that ordinary people can easily understand it. The Romantic poets are William Wordsworth, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, Robert Southey, P.B. Shelley, Lord Byron, and John Keats. The popular novelists of this period are Jane Austen, Horace Walpole, Walter Scott, and Richard Sheridan. After the Romantic Age, we have the Victorian Age. The timeline of the Victorian Age is the reign of Queen Victoria, which is from 1837 to 1901. It is called the next golden age of Britain after the Elizabethan Age. As Industrial Revolution flourished, there was a deterioration in the working conditions of poor people. This is the reason in the Victorian Age there was a British working class movement. Writers such as Charles Dickens and Elizabeth Gaskell started talking about the social condition of England in their novels. Charles Darwin published The Origin of Species in the Victorian Age, which completely changed the way people looked at God and religion. So there was a clash between faith and reason in the Victorian Age. The popular poets of the Victorian Age are Alfred Lord Tennyson, Robert Browning, Matthew Arnold, D.G. Rossetti, and Gerald Manley Hopkins. And the popular novelists of the Victorian Age are Charles Dickens, George Eliot, William Makepeace Thackeray, all the three Bronte sisters, Charlotte Bronte, Emily Bronte, Anne Bronte, Thomas Hardy, and Oscar Wilde. Modern age started after the Victorian Age from 1901. Society became fragmented in the modern age. The World War I took place between 1914 and 1918, and people saw massive destruction in the First World War. Then there was the Great Depression, which occurred from 1929 to 1930 when stock market crashed and it affected the global economy. Modern writers such as T.S. Eliot saw a decline in civilization and degradation in humanity. Modern writers also became interested in the functioning of the human mind after Sigmund Freud published The Interpretation of Dreams in 1900. This led to the stream of consciousness novels. There was non-linearity in plots. Symbolism was used by many writers. Some notable modern writers are T.S. Eliot, W.B. Yeats, James Joyce, Virginia Woolf, Joseph Conrad, George Orwell, E.M. Forster, D.H. Lawrence. So finally we have come to the last literary age, the postmodern age, which started after the Second World War in 1945. Britain lost its power and the United States of America became a superpower with great economy. Everything was fragmented and disordered. Writers started celebrating the absurdity and disorientation instead of finding logic and rationality. The theatre of absurd, angry young man theatre, and confessional poetry became very popular. Some popular writers of the postmodern age are Samuel Beckett, Harold Pinter, John Osborne, Ted Hughes, Philip Larkin, Agatha Christie, Somerset Maugham, Doris Lessing, and Angela Carter. So that's it for this video. I discussed the summary of all the literary ages. In the forthcoming videos, I plan to take each literary age and then talk about the political situation and literary characteristics of the age in detail. So if you found this video helpful, then do like it and share with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Stay tuned to Learning Literature with Purba, and thanks for watching.